Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming back to watch the Entrepreneur Hour. Today, my guest is Rene Amador. Is that how you say it? I should have asked you before.
You got it.
All right, awesome. So the way I normally start out the show is I talk about the person's origin story. How we met, and then their origin story. Uh, so me and Rene met, I think online. I think I found your technology, or somebody connected me to your technology, and I was like, "Whoa, this is amazing." And you were based in LA, so I tried to connect one of my partners to go check out your space, and then we met physically at AR/VR Innovate. No, not AR/VR. There was a New York augmented reality.
Mixed reality marketing summit, I think is
That's right. And I'm going to show you. Actually, I'm going to put a link in the description of. The chat of me doing Rene's technology, but I'll hold off till we get there, so nobody leaves.
Okay.
So all right. So now tell the audience about your origin story. What did you do before you got your superpower and became an entrepreneur? Like, what?
Wow, that's a really complicated question because ARWall is actually my fourth startup.
Oh wow!
That I've founded. Yeah, my first was just an online video studio that I was doing with a few friends, and then I had a couple of commercial production companies.
So you were an entrepreneur from day one. You never had a job. You went straight into entrepreneurship, or did you work as something before you did one of those things?
So it originally started that I just needed a brand to do some content. By trade, I'm a filmmaker.
Okay.
That's really where I started. And in high school, I kind of made the decision, I want to be a filmmaker. I'm going to do the whole thing and give it a shot and everything like that. So I started making shorts in high school, and I needed a brand that I needed a domain name and all this stuff. I had to decide. So yeah, I came up with a name. A few friends of mine, we were the ones making the content. And one of those ended up hitting really big. It was called Real Ultimate Power, the official ninja movie. It was a viral video that I made in high school when I was 17. And it got 3 million views.
On YouTube, it went viral?
No, this is 2 years before YouTube was invented.
Oh, okay.
So this was self-hosted. I programmed the actual website and the video hosting and everything like that. At that time, you needed to do that because there was no YouTube equivalent. You had to do the hosting, set up the hosting, the bandwidth, everything yourself. So, it was one of those websites that you probably remember. It was like some crazy information about the video that you were about to see, and then it had like 10 mirror links of all.
So you were hosted in various places, so it didn't work. Yeah.
Exactly. And actually, it got so popular that every single mirror link went down every single day. So then fans started, fans started to donate their web hosting space. So those mirror links started to get very reliable. And then ultimately, one specific fan donated their entire bandwidth to us. And so that's how we reached 3 million. Otherwise, the actual difficult thing at that time was making sure that the bandwidth was available for people to download video files because they were very large relatively at the time. We were talking about, 15 megabytes. Which was massive. Yeah.
It took 10 hours to download. Exactly. That's amazing. But that's awesome. So you broke the internet and then you decided to create a production company because you were getting maybe a lot of feedback and people wanted to hire you?
Well, in the meantime I went to film school. I should mention that my father and mother were both entrepreneurs as well. My dad started a personal finance software company and came out with a software called Money Smart for the Amiga operating system. If you guys remember Amiga,
Wow.
it was kind of the precursor to Windows and all that kind of PC.
Wow. So what's your nationality? Your dad is what? What?
Both of my parents are from Nicaragua. However, they did not meet in Nicaragua. They met in San Francisco in 1966.
So your dad was one of the original minorities in tech, pretty much, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah. In actuality, he was definitely one of the first Latinos probably that went to the engineering school there at Berkeley.
wow.
And I mean, I don't know for sure, but I'm sure it must be true, right?
Yeah.
Um, and he got an electrical engineering degree, and he actually did work for the defense industry for 40 years. And this break when I was about 10 years old was a fluke in his entire career, where he decided to become an entrepreneur. However, that was it was his second startup. His first was my mother founded a law office that she ended up running for about 30 years successfully.
Wow, wow. So you got some good pedigree. You had law and technology. You're in a good
Yeah. It's like I'm a custom made CEO. I got the tech, I got the legal, boom. I can read the contract.
I have a law question. Now I have a tech question. That's pretty good. All right. So you had a great start, and you've used it in a great way. So what was the first entrepreneurship, jump in?
So the first one that I made was called Food for the Moon Productions. That was our online video brand. And the only goal for that one was basically to get the word out about that we were creators, get some views, get some notoriety, and everything like that, which at that time was a massive deal, because if you think you were a filmmaker, unless you had played in festivals or gotten written up in the press, like nobody would know who the heck you are. So all of a sudden we were very popular online video creators. We were making all sorts of different stuff, really crazy videos. For those of you that who are watching that might remember from high school, we were really making some crazy stuff, and it became really the precursor to kind of what people know now as just like online video humor. So I really was part of that community very early on, and when I'm talking like the real stuff, somethingawful.com forums, 4chan, that type of those types of online anonymous forums. I was pretty involved in those, and doing comedy on those. So a lot of the humor that we were doing was stemming out of that community, and basically
like an early Vine kind of idea, and TikTok-ish, right? Like instead of being an app, you went on these forums, you put stuff up, and they kind of grew and grew in popularity, right?
Yeah, and hopefully that gives you an idea of how it is that I got 3 million views. I knew who my audience was. It was people on the Something Awful forums. It was people that were reading Sean Baby, and that, my favorite stuff, Maddox, the best page in the universe at the time. He was a fan of ours as well. I'm actually Facebook friends with him still, which is really weird. One of the most popular online humorists in the world.
He has like a cartoon website, right, where he does cartoons, and they're like a strip.
Maddox is the original online troll. He probably will hate if I say that, but that is the reality. He defined kind of that online humor and everything like that. And I like to think that me and my buds, when we were making these online videos, we did help define the tonality of online video content in general, just at the fact that it's so youthful, so irreverent. It kind of has very kinetic editing and everything like that. And that's what we were really about. Like being big fans of like Snatch and that type of stuff at the time, Fight Club. Yeah. So we were really, that's what we were feeling, and we were vibing on that really, really crazy stuff.
Well, that was a good time. So and then you created this production company. People were hiring you as production. They just hired you to make their videos, basically, right?
So at that time, basically what we did was we just tried to get collaborators, and like people making content with us. And keep in mind here, I was in high school, so I had to go to film school with the rest of my buds. So we went to UC Santa Cruz, which had a really good film department there, run by Chip Lord, who was the head of the Ant Farm Collective. It's like an experimental film collective. So basically, this stuff got even crazier at that point because we started adding effects and audio and all sorts of professional production and some more high-end cameras and everything like that. That's where I really first did my first virtual production. I did quite a few shorts that involved green screen. And then I had to figure out, well, gosh, something's got to go back there. So figuring out compositing. And so kind of taught myself visual effects compositing and green screen and everything like that. So when I came out of high school, I had a pretty good reel, and I was able to get a job doing post supervision on trailers and TV shots, mostly for Paramount. So this was a pause in similar to my dad's pause in a 40-year long career of working for the defense industry. I had the opposite thing. From 2006 to 2009, I was not an entrepreneur. I worked for another company and was doing quite a bit of work for the studios, and then did that freelance. And that's how those other production companies kind of came out, originally as post-production houses, and then trying to get into making our own content for brands and that type of stuff. The second one was a complete failure right from the start. I think within 3 months, me and the other co-founders wanted to kill each other, basically. To give you an idea how that went. And so then I gave it a shot again. The brand was called Automaton Creative, and we were successful for about 8 years. We had big brands like Verizon, AT&T, and then we were doing a lot of original, really when it was still very novel, a lot of original branded series and branded pilots and that type of stuff. Back when brands weren't quite sure, like, oh, are we the advertiser? Are we the content creator? Or what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Doing quite a bit of work for Playboy, doing that type of stuff.
Nice.
Not the risque stuff, but basically the video articles. So I met a lot of people doing that. Bands and stuff, so we did music videos and stuff, doing that type of stuff. And one of the other group of people that I did meet was a lot of tech entrepreneurs. So we got notoriety because we were doing so much tech, so many tech campaigns. Like, oh, we're like creatives that understand tech, and we can launch a new product and everything like that. So we were approached quite a bit for different SaaS, different services. As well as at the time, prior to Instagram taking over everything, a lot of content-based social networks.
So you asking you to create content for people to put on, for these brands to put on these social networks.
Even more rudimentary than that, I was making the ad to promote the actual network. Meaning, you needed a video that was like, why would you come to this social network versus
got it. Download my app. Yeah.
So I would be making those apps. And some of those companies were very well financed and were very happy to kind of write a blank check and go boom, So we were doing some pretty crazy stuff. I was getting into effects, animation, really high-end performance, getting a cast of 10 people for a branded short, and doing a complex production with sets and stuff like that. So really starting to get into some crazy stuff, none of it being content until really the last few years. I'm sorry, none of it being like scripted content, like narrative content, until the last few years, where all of a sudden everybody decided, oh, we need to make a TV pilot. That became the hot thing around 2014. Everybody was like, oh, we're making a TV pilot. So then we were making lots and lots of TV pilots, animated TV pilots, TV pilots in partnership with major brands, all sorts of stuff like that. And one of those happened to be for a company called Envisage, which is really kind of what kicked it off for me to think beyond entertainment. Envisage was designing a new type of camera sensor using graphene-based technology, and they were acquired by Apple after we were there as resident filmmakers for about a year, creating content for them.
So and acquired them in what year? Because Apple was acquiring a lot of things. What, around like 2009ish?
2016 or 2017.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
pretty recently.
Yeah.
And so the because I was working for these guys for about a year, I learned quite a bit of what they did to become successful, how they were thinking about it.
I have a pause question for most entrepreneurs. Most entrepreneurs know there's an exit strategy, but what I really like to understand, if you understand it for that one, is why did Apple acquire that specific company? What do you think was the reason?
Oh God, I absolutely know. Which is that they were creating a digital sensor that was equivalent in like motion sensitivity and light sensitivity to celluloid film. So we're talking about.
So can you explain what all those words mean?
Now we're getting wonky. Yeah, it basically means that the visual quality that you're going to get, you're going to get very nice shadows. You're going to get very nice whites here in the peaking. And so when you get more detail in the shadows and whites, it ends up resulting in a more cinematic image, which basically means that there's more lighting control and more thought put into the contrast.
The color output, and that's probably in all these cameras now, right? They probably bought it to bring into the iPhone 10 and stuff like that, right?
You've exactly got it. If somebody is able to deliver something competitive against, for example, a Red camera or an RE in the smartphone, that company is going to be extremely successful. They're going to basically be putting the power of like a film camera into your phone. So you can imagine if that is an opportunity, that's the type of thing that Apple would be interested in. And then there was a lot of other stuff that they were up to just because they knew a lot about graphene. And I don't know if anybody knows anything about graphene, but it's one of the hot new alloys that's been invented in the new millennium. It has really weird photovoltaic qualities that make it really well suited for things like video sensors and that type of stuff. But the applications are really broad. And Envisage
has hardware in a way. It was hardware. Okay. It was hardware and software. Yep.
Yeah, and they had 30 plus patents specifically in the graphene imaging space. So I think anybody that wants to go into that space would have to go through Envisage. So I think that's the reason that Apple acquired them, which also informs what we've been up to at AR Wall as far as.
All right, before we get to AR Wall, I want to show the video. All right, so this is what Rene is up to right now. It's gonna look crazy when you see it. You're gonna be like, "What is going on?" We'll explain. Hold on. I'm going to share my screen. All right. Maybe I'll put it full screen actually. man. And then so if you don't understand what's going on there, basically Rene's technology allows you to have a camera and then have a background, and as that camera moves, so does the background. So you don't need to create complex sets in reality. You could create them in augmented reality. You consider it augmented reality, AR? Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So this allows you to do a lot of cool ideas without crazy budgets, right? So I got to, when I met Rene, I got to do it at the augmented reality conference in New York City, augmented reality marketing conference. So I'll show you guys how I work it, and then oops. All right, so this is me using the technology. So one of his people are following me, and I'm trying to grab this egg. Looks amazing. It looks so cool in real life, and I'm sure for video productions, it's just cool as hell.
Wow, that looks so good. Because of the flaring off of the screen, it really puts you right next to it.
Yeah.
That's one of the positives. So, like, just to give a little bit more explanation for people, if you can imagine, rear projection was a popular technology prior to green screen coming on the scene. So that's like, you know, your Hitchcock characters. They're in a car. As the car, you know, they're getting in the back of the car, and then as the car is moving, somebody's pretending to drive, and then behind in the rear, through the rear view window, you see kind of the street going away from the camera, right? And that actually, those illusions were very successful for quite a long time, and things like Wizard of Oz used them very, very successfully. And I actually think some of the best composites still in cinematic history are with rear projection, way back, like Wizard of Oz, like the tornado scene. It's just like
post back then. It was like made as they shot it, right?
Yes, and this is kind of the dirty secret of filmmaking, is that most filmmakers are aware and actually prefer physical effects for a number of reasons, and I can get into that a little bit. Basically, anytime that you have a combination of physical and digital, meaning that you're basing some of it on the physical and you're shooting something physical, and then you combine digital with that in an intelligent way, that's how you end up getting those effects that, you know, really boggle people's minds and make them go like, wait a second, how did you do that? And rear projection is one of those technologies because it has real photons pushing out off of the screen, hitting the actor, hitting glass. You know, like here on my glasses, I've got all sorts of stuff happening.
It's more realism, right? It's just more realism. Yeah.
Physical photons. Now, if you think what a visual effects artist's job is and a compositor's job is, when they're actually using green screen, they're trying to fake all the photons and fake all the bounce and everything.
If they're good, if they care about all that, because, you know, some don't do all that, right? They just.
But the fact is that Hollywood has created a pool of people that are capable of doing this at a very high level, and these are Da Vinci level artists. Like these are people that were sucking out of the creative labor of pool of labor and asking them to do very monotonous kind of rote visual cleanup work. And what we're really seeing is by eliminating that component of the labor and having that be done by algorithm in the time that the shutter can open and close, we actually perfectly update the background to the camera's position and orientation. It actually can be accomplished in under 41 milliseconds, which is the threshold to make that happen. So that is the core technology that we have brought to the market, is making that illusion happen. So I move the background normally. If the camera moves, in a rear projection setup, side to side, let's say, or even in and out, the viewer is going to see that the projection image is static. It doesn't have depth or parallax as you move next to it. So our system, what it does is instead of using a static video stream or photo, it actually uses a 3D environment. And so as the camera's perspective changes on the 3D environment, it updates the parallax position on the screen so that it looks like it's a huge, deep environment. But in actuality, it's generally no further than 3 meters from the actual camera.
So I know Rene's very technical. He's using words you may not understand. So parallax means when the background moves faster or slower. I think it's faster than the front image. So as you saw in mine when I was going for the egg, right? His system basically in real time as it moves, the egg is moving in the background, but it's basically it's a screen that knows where I am and knows where the camera is. So it moves the background as in real time as the camera moves. So it's really, really, it looks real. Like it looked like I was going after that egg, and it even looked like I was inside of the screen in certain points, right? But it's the fact that the angle was just so tight in real time that your eye believes that I was in that space. And it's really, really cool.
Thank you. The other half of that, the other part that was the actual trick was the calibration, which we were able to patent.
Oh, nice. Congrats.
Thank you. So that's we call it XR Sync, and it's a singles touch calibration process, and it basically simplifies the entire complexity of making these types of XR illusions into the type of thing that is almost as easy as setting up an external monitor on your computer. So our claim now is we've simplified the actual process and the software to the point where, we've done 50 deployments of this technology. We've worked for big projects like Netflix and HBO and NBC and these types of companies.
Can you say the actual productions that were used?
I mean, the one that most people would know, which is the one we usually mention, is Night Flyers, which is available on Netflix right now. We were heavily involved in all the window content for the pilot episode, and that's definitely the one that we point people to, because it's a really tremendous application of our technology, and hopefully you'll see why it is that people are excited about it, because it's real photons. And so if you imagine your set is all mirrors and glass and chrome and everything like that, which is what they did, then you're getting away with a look and feel and aesthetic that hasn't been possible in cinema since green screen was invented. So 20 years. So you're seeing an aesthetic that just the audience isn't going to know why, but they go, wow, it's so textural. Yeah.
Yep. So amazing stuff, man. Congrats on all that. I'm in the AR space for many years, and I remember seeing this wow, this is genius. This is smart. How is your business going to either be affected or helped by COVID and stuff like that? Because I have friends in the production industry, and they're all saying the rules for production are changing dramatically, right? Like the amount of time now, people are going to have to spend some time up front to test for COVID before they're on set. They're going to be limiting how many people are on set. How does AR Wall, help that, or do you think you'll have to pivot or in any way?
Well, I can tell you what we're doing as far as innovating and pushing the technology forward. But I should also mention that I actually speak with quite a few filmmakers, studio people, everything like that. And I think the consensus in the industry right now is, unless something is a perfect fit for reducing staff and facilitating social distancing, let's say, it's a couple actors in a single location, something like that. Unless a project is like that, it's probably not happening in 2020. Just straight up.
Wow.
So it's animation, it's virtual production, it's simple, That Hilary Swank film, Mother, is kind of like a good example of where people's heads are at right now. If you've seen that, it's a couple characters. There's a digital character. And it's a single location, which is like a bunker, like an apocalyptic bunker. And
where is it? It's
that's on Netflix, I think.
Okay.
Um,
Mother, the one where it's a robot. Got it.
Yeah, you got a robot in there, like a robot AI, matronly, like villain type thing. Yeah, so that's kind of where people's heads are at. And I think, so if you're an animator, hey, it's a great time. Go pitch yourself.
I started out animation. I was like, maybe I need to get back into it because right now it's going to be hot until this just changes. So I have been thinking about that as well.
So that's the industry at large, and kind of that's what I've been hearing. And just want to share that because I don't think that's insight that a lot of people are aware of. So this is a fundamental shift in theatrical distribution in general. Yeah. I mean, I think even though we're seeing things opening up, I think there's still a reality where, gosh, for 12, maybe even 18 additional months, this is going to be a consideration. And what I've read in the production requirements is a little bit outrageous. It's talking about adding anywhere from additional 2 to 4 hours of production time. And I don't know if you know unions. I don't know if you know unions, but they are not going to allow that.
And already, even without that, it's long, crazy hours. You're going to add an extra 4 hours. Yeah, I know. I heard the same thing.
I mean, unless the production company is going to have to eat every single one of those costs, which means how many production days are we ending up with? It seems a little bit wild. Once you start to do the math, it's like adding 25 to 30% of additional cost and consideration to any production. So now productions are coming to us because we're saying, well, actually, we cut 70% off the usual effects cost of a specific sequence. So they're going, okay, wait a second, 30% here, 70% here. Maybe there's a way to make this work with the budgets that we were thinking before. So I'll be straight up. We've been talking to everyone.
Makes sense.
Everyone in Hollywood. We're very lucky because we got the interest of a major agency. Unfortunately, I can't say which one, but they've been sending our name around, and we've been benefiting from that. So the reason for that is because obviously virtual production is going to be key for two things. One is reducing number of people on set. For every component that is virtual, you do not need the physical department head, there. So that's what props, set construction, you name it.
That's done in CG, right? It's kind of like you guys use Unreal too, like Star Wars, right? Star Wars, the background, not Star Wars, not Mandalorian. All those backgrounds were created in CG live, right? Was it live in Mandalorian?
I know a lot about that production. I probably shouldn't share everything that I know, but what I can share is that it was LED video walls that were used for the backdrops. It's almost exactly the same as our technology. What I always say, though, in the sales meetings, though, is we're definitely a cheaper solution. It's we're using a filmmaking technology that was built to be filmmaking technology. Whereas the technology stack that was used on Mandalorian was jerry-rigged from live events. The number of screens that were required, but it's not a very efficient way to do it. And I think even the people that did it are open to saying that they're going to do it different in the future. And then. Yeah, so that's an ILM technology. We did present to ILM and to Disney. We presented to every single executive and filmmaker about 6 months before they announced this thing, Stagecraft. And we actually are continuing the conversations afterwards. So even though they own and have used that technology and it's hit the news and everything like that, even inside Disney, they can't get access to it, because it's not a marketable product. So ours has been on the market for over 2 years, and used on over 50 deployments. We're definitely the #1 team there. Anyway, so like virtual production is key. One, because you're reducing the number of people on site, and anytime you can even take one person away, all of a sudden you're plummeting the cost, right? Because you don't need, less headache, everything like that. The other thing is because, well, they can't go to actual locations. So we're talking about making digital clones and then creating completely fictional locations. And, there's some stuff that people are just like, oh, wait, we can't shoot there, which would be like subway stations, things like public facilities, like, the White House, Congress, that type of stuff, where you're just like, yeah, we would just go over there, get a permit, bing, bang, boom. Now it's basically impossible, right? Imagine and going to try and get a permit at one of these public facilities that's, either on lockdown right now, or just doesn't have any staff that want to be able to even like clean it for you. Yes. So it's a big headache for filmmakers right now, because filmmakers really rely on the rest of the economy to be humming and going, so that we can sit there and point a camera at it, right? And get some free
crowds, right? Like things have to look like.
This is the #1 request in the meetings now is, can I get a crowd in there? And of course we can. The type of stuff that you saw in like Lord of the Rings, those crowd generation tools, they do have plugins for Unreal Engine. And so we can not only use those like amazing looking characters, but we can also use the AI brain, the actual thing that decides like, here's this person's milling about, this person's doing something different. And then a filmmaker can go through prior to the production and go like, I don't like this guy, get rid of that guy, what's this guy doing?
That way. Yep. Oh, that's amazing.
And basically, yeah, and he'll direct he or she will direct the extras crowd prior to the production even beginning, and then play it back on a loop. So you can imagine here some of the like, wait, what kind of moments that filmmakers are having on our virtual demos. And this is a virtual demo that I run out of my living room on my 75-inch TV. And I basically tell them, imagine that this is 45 feet wide, and it's filling the entire frame and everything like that. And that's how we've been doing it, and we've been having some really good conversations there.
Go ahead, finish.
There's one other thing that I should mention, which is usually at the end of these calls, somebody says something like, oh, I have somebody right now that's like stuck at home or stuck in quarantine or something, and it would be really cool if they could have these backdrops and generate some content and everything like that. And this is a continual request that we're getting from about 15 different parties. So
I told you that a long time ago. Remember that conversation, right?
we may be inventing a new category in the market called prosumer virtual production, which is specifically suited for taking that type of backdrop effects that people are familiar with in the videos that you just saw or in The Mandalorian, and ripping that out of the Hollywood studio and putting it, giving it to the home user.
So my background one day is going to be an AR wall, and I'm going to be in space.
You've absolutely got it, and that's, I think it's really exciting because for us, it's something that we've been thinking about for a while. But when we kind of ask people around about it, like, oh, who's the market for this? People are like, I don't know, like, this is totally fresh. Now people know that they need this and they want this, because all we have to say is, it's virtual backdrops without a green screen, and they're like, I love it.
It makes so much sense. Like, the reason I brought it up to him, I think it was like a year ago, because we were talking to people about creating shows, kind of like what we're stuck doing now, but you didn't want to create these crazy sets, right? And you also want to give people options. So it made so much sense to be able to say, let's set up a studio. We change the set every single person, and we can do a different show in the same exact location, but it looked totally different. So I definitely think that's a step down. That, of course, there needs to be budget for it, but it is not as much as like a Netflix or HBO thing or actual movie. One thing this all makes me think about, though, is, and this is what I talk a lot about when you think about entrepreneurship, think about what we all are doing. We are eliminating jobs in a way. It's the way it's going. So if you're not in the mindset of what Rene's talking about, what I'm talking about, and you're in the one of those roles that will be eliminated, and you wait till it's eliminated, you're putting yourself in a bad position. But it's going to happen. Whether Rene does it, somebody else does it. It's just the way things are going to become more efficient, more cost effective. People are just always going to be removed. So part of what I always like to talk about is make sure you're thinking about technology and your specific job. Can somebody else do this? And when you see stuff like this and you say, whoa, this could affect my job, don't just wait for it. Start looking for other ways of, continuing your career, because this is very common, but this is going to happen. Like, it's happening already. And with COVID, it's probably speeding it up, if anything. I literally have had conversations, not on the show, but where companies that have had 100 employees have automated most of their processes to 5. So now they only need is 5 people versus they needed 100 pre-COVID, right?
I think, yeah. I mean, and this is, just to be clear, this is something that's, I think, widely known internationally. When you study economies internationally, what you see is that any time that the cost of labor goes up, either through legislation or through economic circumstances, natural disasters, whatever it happens to be, immediately there's adoption of automation technology. And it hasn't been clear what is one following the other, is one causing the other, what's actually happening here.
In a way, yeah.
But I think what you end up seeing is that there's the capacity for processes to go into automation, and then all of a sudden the economic need catches up, and that point where it becomes more cost effective to automate versus to have a human being happens during these economic downturns. Not necessarily because the cost of labor is happening, but because the access to labor capital, the actual capital to pay for that labor, is all of a sudden sucked out of the market. So in Europe, for example, automation of retail and clerk type services and everything like that is getting very, very popular. And then, of course, in Asia, kiosk-based shopping is highly popular, which is basically what's an automated vending machine robot, right? And that's kind of where our heads we're at. In January, we launched a new product which doesn't track a camera, but tracks your head's perspective and delivers the same type of window illusion, not to a film camera, but to you, the user, right in front of the screen, with gesture tracking, voice tracking, and then for logging in and payments, we offload it to mobile using a QR code.
Explain that. Okay, so give me the user case again. Like, I'm trying to understand, as a user, am I using this for passwords, you're saying?
No, so this is something that's for retailers and for location-based entertainment venues. So like arcades, theme parks, that type of stuff. And really, for us, it's any time that you would want to speed up or be more entertaining in a brick and mortar type experience.
So you see a screen and it's basically tracking your head, so it knows based on where you are.
It tracks this point. It tracks this point in the middle of your brow, between your eyes.
Thing to track in AR, yeah, that's.
And then as you move around, it shifts to be the correct perspective that you're looking from. And what's crazy is we started at about 150. If you remember, the ARFX technology is 41 milliseconds, so that's good enough for filmmaking. That's a pretty demanding threshold. We started at about 150 milliseconds for the head tracking one. Now we're at 50. So we're within 20% of the filmmaking technology, and from a user's naked eye perspective, it's you can't tell the difference.
No, and it's going to be amazing because it's nothing has ever been like that. So let alone, hey, this is a split second difference. It's not, nobody's going to think that. They're just going to be like, holy shit, how the hell is this working? That's
hopefully what people say. So we went to CES with this, and really thinking that this was a gaming product. And having some sensation that there was a retail experience component to it as well. But we thought like, okay, this is
Are you doing hardware too, or are you using something like the Connect? Are you?
this is our first dip into hardware. We didn't design a new camera sensor or anything, but we had our own form factor and everything like that. You know, with the processing in it and everything, the TV inside of it, everything like that. We had an all-in-one unit that we brought to CES, and we actually ended up winning the Dreamland XR prize for best AR experience at CES. Thank you, and we got tremendous amount of interest in that. To give you an idea, one of the major consumer packaged goods company asked us to get rid of all their touch screens and everything like that. This was pre-crisis, so that conversation has been delayed, but we're still very hopeful that
it's happening now. Because are you saying that you can also interact, kind of like I created something with the Connect one time where through hand gestures, stuff happens. Is that what you're gonna do?
So what happens is once you achieve the kind of speed and accuracy that we've achieved, all of a sudden menu-based interactions become really no-brainer and really simple. Because usually the problem with menu-based interactions is it can't quite tell, like, are you looking here or there? What are you doing? So you're like wiggling all around. But once you get the latency, you know, kind of like it's this balance between latency and accuracy. So once you kind of achieve really well on one, then you can get away with murder on the other one. It's like this weird balance.
Uncanny valley, right? It's like the uncanny valley of like where you're looking and what you're trying to do. And if you can line up, you're more likely to make it an easier experience, right? Because you're not like
we got it.
Yeah.
You got it. It's like it's like this really foundational stuff, and it's really weird to be like at the cutting edge of like, oh, I can tell now, I can't tell, and it's like I know it's like every moment that we achieve this stuff, we can tell like, oh man, this is gonna make a big difference as things move forward. Every piece of software that we come out with. So yeah, this one is new. There's a different iterations of interest that we're getting for this one. Because of the kind of the pause in the retail market, we're getting this is a little bit funny. We're getting quite a bit of interest for drive-through experientials. So this is not, you're not walking by the screen, you're driving by the screen. And so just to give you some context here.
On the side of the cars that you drive
either side. So you're like in this LED tunnel. So you can almost imagine you would drive into a building, let's say it's a parking garage or a warehouse or something like that. And it's almost like you're driving into Toontown, like Who Framed Roger Rabbit. You know, you have like a curtain open and then, okay, it's this crazy world or something. So, you know, let's say it was like Doritos or something, it'd be some crazy Doritos world, some cartoon world inside there. And we're actually getting quite a bit of interest for this, for media marketing, for film and TV marketing, because people can't have an experiential like
a place where because of social distancing.
A place where you go. So they go, okay, so this is what we'll do. You know, like we're gonna get 100 people a day to drive through in here. So then they're gonna book their time. You know, you come at 11:15, 11:30, you know, that type of thing. You get in the line, you queue up, you get your experience, you go in, and then somewhere in the middle, what we're doing also is you get we call that video activation. So we take a video of you as your car drives by a specific screen, and hopefully it looks all amazing because it's physical photos.
You send them a video of them going through this experience, kind of like what they do with the VR, right? Where you see yourself doing it.
Yeah. And if you're familiar with the Universal Studios Backlot Tour here in Hollywood, this is going to be familiar to you. So this is basically you're in a tram, kind of like in a backlot tram, and then the tram will actually drive into what is essentially a theme park ride, and then on either side of you, you'll have this crazy illusion happening, and as the tram moves forward, the parallax to the image perfectly matches the shifting motion.
Oh,
So it looks like you're looking into this deep, deep world. And basically,
like you'll drive into like a car wash, and then the thing grabs you and then takes you, right? And it's like that's
actually a good idea. That would be good, because one of my first questions was, what happens if people like
you got the car wash. That happened live, guys.
Yikes! Yeah. So that's kind of the crazy stuff that we're getting into. Also, social XR is a big thing. There's a lot of interesting stuff happening in browser-based GPU rendering. So this is something where in the browser you will be able to utilize the same types of graphics rendering that you're familiar with in a video game. So I had to see it to believe it. But this is already, even right now, it's about 90% of what Unity is capable of accomplishing. And I think
this is not Unreal. This is Unity.
This is a web. I don't know. I think I can talk about it a little bit. So we are we're one of the chief collaborators on an open collective called XR Engine, and so this is a real-time engine.
Right? It's an open source thing, right?
It's an open source collective, because like, just so everyone is familiar, to make a real-time engine from scratch takes somewhere between $1 million and $10 million. So you can, a single company generally.
I got it. Don't worry, Master's gonna do it.
Yeah, a single company like ours isn't going to be able to achieve it. But with us and let's say 16 other entities getting involved in this type of thing, together we can do a lot of damage, and we can start to bring in commercial projects for the platform and everything like that. So we've joined this collective. It's called XR Engine. It's the CEO of the organization is a very prolific XR engineer named Liam Broza. He's mostly known for BitScoop and LifeScope. He won one of the Magic Leap hackathons. And he's a very, very well respected businessman in this space, and creator in this space, who I happen to know and really like. And we happen to be looking for a social XR platform that was going to be relevant to retailers. And the reason that AR Wall is getting involved in this is because right now one of the big requests that we're getting is creating. This is again a really, really crazy one. Virtual versions of retail and locations and theme parks and arcades and that type of stuff. So you're not going to get.
How would the user use that on the browser?
On the browser, and you'd buy a ticket, and you'd buy a ticket, and you go with your family to a virtual theme park. This is not a joke. This is a real thing that the discussions are happening. And so,
everything is game right now, right?
Virtual. If it's virtual, it's big right now. So what happens when those theme parks open, though? Our thought is there's probably going to be some desire to maintain consistency between the avatar, the profile, the rewards, and all the different stuff that you were doing on that social XR platform, that browser-based experience, when you're at the physical location. So our pitch now to retailers and theme parks is, we will help you get up onto this XR Engine platform, and it will perfectly integrate with our digital signage once you open. And at that point, we can.
So you just got to run a browser, and you can on your own hardware, basically. No, but you on a camera, regular. Oh wow!
So it gets pretty crazy. It gets pretty wild, because we could have types of experiences where, let's say, there's 1,000 people in a virtual theme park. Then you go to the physical theme park, and you actually have a screen that's showing you the virtual theme park, and you're interacting with people internationally, like that are in the ride and with them and everything like that. And the original thought is, okay, it's a one-to-one. So you kind of have one physical location, one virtual location. But in actuality, what we're seeing is that you could have the physical component can be very minor. Can be like a micro retail location or something, like 150 square feet. And then you have these screens that really just are transporting you to this gigantic virtual location,
Yeah.
virtual showroom, everything like that. So I think one of the other trends that we're seeing from the retail side is not just reduction of staff, and potentially like appointment-based shopping is another trend that we're seeing. But the really big one is contraction of the square footage that they're actually comfortable doing.
Yeah, because they're spending a lot of money on space. They're not using it. Yeah, that makes total sense.
You think about you're a clothing store right now. You've got 2,000 square feet, right, in a prime location. Are people even going to touch those clothes?
Yeah.
Are more than one person going to walk into the store?
Yeah.
That is a question. That is now a question that a clothing retailer is happening. Am I going to have more than 2 people in the store ever next 18 months? So you can imagine that 2,000 square feet, all of a sudden, maybe 200 square feet is a little bit more of the type of thing that we're talking about. So you try on all your clothes, you customize your electronics on a digital showroom stream that's running through our ARL interactive platform. And then when you actually need to grab the physical item, they bring it out to you prepackaged or plastic wrapped up. And then you can either complete your purchase on our screen, on your mobile phone, or using the traditional point of sale at the retail location, whatever they choose. So that's kind of the thing that we're looking at for the recovery. But I'll be frank, we're already having discussions of this one is real crazy. 0 human stores, completely unmanned stores that open the door with a robot on a schedule. You walk in, you have just LED screens and the pamphlets, and then you.
I've seen this years ago. Actually, I think Ralph Lauren was doing it, where it was like a screen. You're speaking to Ralph Lauren. He's guiding you through the experience. Like, okay, you like white? Okay, here's all my white. I want number 4, right? Like,
yeah.
Yeah, man, no doubt.
And really having virtual concierge, virtual assistant shopping, and potentially even AI suggestions where like it would kind of go like, oh, tell me a little bit of like what you're looking for, and then it would go, okay, have you thought about this is really popular and that type of stuff. And if and really our part of it is somebody needs to be connecting all these plugs, right? Sure. Somebody needs to be tying all these strings together so that these web services are working in engine, which is working with the interactive component. So we're the hub in the middle of all this, connecting everything together and making sure that the functionality is there and available for the brands and marketers.
Yeah. And that's amazing. We had so much things. We had other things. You're going to have to come back again later for the AI stuff that we were going to talk about. But I like to make sure, because this is going to get 1 million views one day. What do you need? Are you actively raising money, which I know a lot of companies right now are because of the COVID? Are you looking for a specific type of talent? What kind, or partnerships? What are you looking for?
Yeah, so somebody that we talked to let slip that we're coming out with this home studio product to a few investors. And so we're getting tremendous amounts of interest because we're creating basically a mass market virtual production product. So we're, I think, now thinking about opening up the conversations about investment. And I think with the social XR stuff in combination with that, it's looking pretty attractive to do something really, really killer over the next few years in the virtual space. The other thing that we're looking for is introductions to retailers, brands, and advertisers and marketers that would be interested upon recovery of moving away from touchscreens, reducing or eliminating human touch in those brick and mortar interactions. Mm-hmm. What I can say is that one of the largest immersive distribution companies here in North America is somebody that we're going to be signing with for all our deployments. So whether it's retail, whether it's a theme park, whether it's arcade, we're going to be backed up by one of the top companies, deployment companies in North America to do that, so that we're focusing on the software and the amazing content. Yeah. So we need a deal flow for that new partnership. We need to know who are the brands that first see an opportunity in virtual, want to move away from touch screens, want to move away from physical handling of product, and think that our interactive signage could be a fit for them. We need to
I
identify.
have, a lead. I think I have a few leads because I was working with the super luxury area, and they were pre-COVID. There wasn't a lot of people in those stores. It was very concierge type sales. So I have a few that I could reach out to see if they'd be interested. I'll do that. Let's talk.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And if anyone else wants to find out more information, we're at arwall.co.
AR was right there on the screen. Rene, it was great. It was great. Thanks. We're gonna have to do this again. I want to talk. I want to bring you back just to talk about AI, but it was great. I'm glad your company is doing well, and everything you're working on sounds amazing. And I might have another thing that we could probably talk about. Yeah, so I'll be in touch, man. And thank you for coming on the show. And thanks for everybody who watched. Super interesting stuff. Make sure you're staying on top of all this stuff. If your job is in this world, you need to be on top of what AR Wall is doing and Rene. So follow Rene. I put in the description his LinkedIn, so link in with him. Thank you, Rene. Have a good day.
Thank you, Miguel. I really appreciate it. Bye.
All right, bye.